Okay, morning everybody.
Morning.
So last time, which was April, the last time I taught, none of y'all remember probably what I taught. It was a long time ago, about 6 months ago I guess. I taught about Come Let Us Reason. Alright. I'm going to try to get back into that because I never finished it. Now how do you pull up something from the bottom?
You just run your cursor over and click on it.
Which one of these would be if I already have it open? Is it in there?
Probably.
Alright, let's see.
Just try it.
Now, which one is it? There. Alright. But before we get into that subject, I'm going to talk about perfect love, because this is something I've been thinking about here lately, and I don't know how long it'll take me to talk about this, but I hope to get back into Come Let Us Reason because I never finished it, and maybe just do a quick review of where we got up to and then finish that and see how far we can get. But you know, Brother Branham talked about that we need perfect love to go to the future home and to go to heaven, or where, you know, beyond here. We have to have perfect love. It's a requirement. It's a prerequisite. You know, you have to have it. But it's not something so far off that we can't attain to it. If so, then God would not have anybody there. Right? So it's not something so far off that we can't attain to it. We know that. So what I want to do is I'm going to review a little bit of my testimony about Iva. Everybody here probably remembers that our baby Iva was born with premature lungs, and she nearly died. Well, I want to try to delve into just the middle part of that testimony, because I know I skimmed over it so fast that a lot of people missed it, what really happened. Alright, so day one, Wednesday, she was born at 4 minutes till midnight on the 4th day of the week. Y'all remember me talking about all the fours, how God's number of deliverances, 4. There's lots of fours in there. Well, she was born and started to diminish really quickly, and they took her to the NICU, and she got worse and worse over the next few days. By the 3rd day, by Saturday, she was nearly dead. Right. Nobody had told us by that time that she was dying. It was parental intuition, I guess you would say, or instinct. We know, because it's our baby that's dying. We know she's dying. Nobody has to tell us. And Gabby and I didn't talk about it. We didn't use the D word. We didn't even discuss that she was dying. But as we sat there watching her that Saturday, the thing that came through my mind is that scripture about having done all to stand, you stand. Which to me means you read your Bible, you pray, you go to church, you do everything you do, you stand for Christ. No matter what. And it's easy sometimes, but sometimes it's really hard when you're facing adversity. So I told Gabby we need to stand, literally, and go to church. Even though we're watching our baby die. And I didn't say that word with her. I didn't use the word. I didn't confess it. I didn't even like to think about her dying. But I knew we had to leave and go to church. So we went, and that was a Bible study night. And we cried all the way to church. We cried all during church. And then at the end of it, Brother Wade spoke those words to me, or God through Brother Wade spoke the words to me that I believe turned the whole thing around. So I received what I had need of, just for her healing right there. But what if we hadn't been there, you know? But my point is, what we were doing was making an act of love to God, because we were against this adversity. So we were acting on love. We said, God, we love you, and we're coming to church anyway. Even if our baby dies in her bed while we're at church, we're going to come. We were just making a determination in ourselves to do that. Well, that night we went home, we went to bed. Gabby didn't go to sleep. My mommy can't sleep when her baby's in the hospital, sick, dying. But I fell asleep for about an hour, and Gabby woke me up and said, your phone's ringing. So I got up and answered my phone. You know how hard it is to wake up after you've been asleep for 1 hour. I got out of bed and answered my phone. It was the doctor. They said, your baby is not doing any good. She's not responding to our treatment. We can't do anything more for her. We're going to send her to Eggleston. So we need your consent. You need to come in and sign this paper. So we came in there, signed the paper. We got a mom to come babysit our other 3 girls. We went to the hospital at Gainesville, signed the paper, watched them put her delicately in this little box, this little plastic kind of incubator, to transport her down to Atlanta. And we went down ahead of her. On the way down, I didn't know this until recently, the paramedic told Gabby, didn't tell me for some reason, and Gabby never thought to tell me until recently, she had actually almost lost Iva twice on the way down. Because she was on an oscillating respirator, which is a machine that it makes her chest do like this. She doesn't inhale and exhale like that. Her lungs just would stay inflated constantly and just barely moved like that, like an air compressor, which doesn't look human. It looks like a science project gone bad. It looks disgusting. You know, it's terrible to see your baby in that condition. But they didn't have that in the ambulance, so she was having to pump by hand for an hour ride as fast as she could, trying to keep Iva's lungs inflated, and nearly lost her twice. And then on the way, when we got down there, we met Dr. Carpin, which is a very renowned baby doctor all throughout the Southeast. She set us down in this in consultation room and looked me in the eye and said, "Your baby is dying." And that's the first time we'd been told that. And this was very much like Satan as a roaring lion roaring right in my face with all this fear that gripped me like I'd never seen before. And I stood there like you do when somebody's just yelling at you in your face, and you stand there and just kind of take it, wait for them to, hush. And Gabby was breaking down crying, and I was just trying to be strong for her. And as she did this, she was simply, the woman's not a devil, that woman's a good doctor, and doing the best, she did her absolute best to save our baby. And I respect her. But what she was telling us was terrible news, and it was Satan roaring in our face, telling us a lie. "I'm going to take your baby tonight." 3 hours later, well, let me back up. So that she told us about this procedure we're going to have to do on your baby, which is called ECMO, where we put this tube down her jugular vein to draw the blood out, circulate it through a machine, put oxygen in it, and put it back in her body. That would save her body long enough for her lungs to heal, because she's not getting oxygen. Right? Her lungs were not absorbing the oxygen. They were inflating. They were, respirating, but they weren't taking in oxygen. So she's fixing to have brain damage. Vital organs were fixing to shut down before her lungs even got a chance to heal. So they said, we're going to do this procedure if she needs it. Her oxygen saturation was 39% before she left Gainesville. By the time we got down to Atlanta, and on the way down, no telling how low it was. They never told us. But 39%, which is, an adult would die on that, I'm pretty sure. A small baby can live for a while like that. But 39% is very borderline brain damage. All right, because no oxygen, and other organs would start shutting down. So we got there and sit beside her for a few hours on no sleep, trying to read my Bible, us praying together and everything else, just sitting there watching them work on our baby, and she's lifeless as can be. And all the while, we're dozing off and just trying to fight and sleep. We're emotionally drained, spiritually drained, physically drained. And I say to Gabby about 6 o'clock in the morning, it's time to get up, go back to Gainesville, and let's go to church. And that was the hardest time of my life, I'm sure. It's even harder than Saturday night, because this time we were actually told she's dying. In the procedure itself, in that ECMO, she's likely to die just in the procedure, because they're cutting her jugular vein open and putting a tube in. They have to put her in surgery, and in the surgery, during that procedure, that could kill her alone. So in the midst of all that, we said, well, we're going to go to church, which is, again, an act of love to God. We love God and want to be here. And we're saying, Satan is come against us with all this adversity. How much more should we stand and serve God in the midst of that? So we stood, we went up to Gainesville, got our other kids ready, and went to church. That morning, Brother William Bordelon preached, and I testified that I was well, she's fine, everything's going to be fine. That was just a positive confession. But, because as far as I knew at that time, she was probably already dead. I didn't know. We left the hospital, and on the way back down to Atlanta, there was just one service that day. We called them and said, I wanted to say, is she alive? But instead I just said, is she on ECMO yet? And they said, no, she's actually getting better. That's where she began to recover. And all the rest of the time, for the next 30 days that she was in the hospital, she was continually getting better. But what we did in the midst of that was 2 acts of love that we committed toward God. And I don't want to say, I'm going to confess that was perfect love, but I'm not going to, boast and say we have all perfect love. I'm just saying we were committing an act of love to God. All right? And that's kind of followed along, and I'm not saying all this to brag, I'm just showing an example here. All along mine and Gabby's marriage, our marriage, what we did before we got married, we sat down and we decided we want a marriage based on a triangle or threefold cord where God is involved in the marriage. It's not just me and Gabby, we want God involved in it. We want God to be the centerpiece of our marriage, meaning that we seek God together, we read our Bible together, we pray together. Well, in the midst of that, see, after we got married, this was kind of weird to most people, but we got married Saturday night, you know what happened. Sunday morning we were in church, okay, which was awkward because everybody knew, wedding night, hello, and then here we are sitting in church. And everybody's like looking at us and stuff. No, you shouldn't even be here, It was kind of awkward, but the pastor pointed us out, Brother Luther, and he said, well, we didn't expect to see Ryan and Gabby, but God bless y'all, it's good for y'all to be here. But see, here we were again, Well, like, where else would we go? I mean, we got married yesterday, and it's still right down the road from the church. Let's just go to church. But for some reason, it's typical for people to get married and run off into the sunset for a week and whatever. But we want to be in church because we want to serve God. All right? And then every time we've had a baby, the very following service, most of the time we were in church with a 3-day-old baby, which is weird to most people. You sit out for a few weeks, which is understandable because you don't want the baby to get sick. But we just said, God, we want to come no matter what. And then I looked at my night shift, my work situation, kicked me out of work on Wednesday nights. I thought if I can be here when my baby's dying, I should not let work keep me out of church anymore. I never wanted that in the first place. Just my boss offered it to me, and I didn't foresee that I'd miss half the Wednesday nights of the year, 26 or so Wednesday nights of the year. So I finally had enough of that, and I said, Don, I want on night shift so I can be at church on Wednesday nights. And he worked it out. And by God's grace, we've been here every Wednesday night since. Again, another act of love. Now, here's what I'm getting to. So when you show God your love by doing that, there's lots of reasons to be at church besides hearing the Word and the fellowship and just being in that atmosphere. There's lots of reasons to be here. But Paul said, not forsaking the assembling yourselves together, and so much more as you see the day approaching. He didn't say why. We think it's because to hear the Word, but there are lots of other reasons for that. But primarily it's obedience. You're just acting out of love and acting in obedience to God. Now, Monica, Sister Monica, right around the time that Iva was in the hospital, right after that trial, I think it was when Monica's mom died. And I asked her, who we were praying for, everybody was praying for her. And I said, Sister Monica, how's your mom doing? We've been praying for her. She smiled and she said, she's doing fine. She's going to be okay. The Lord's going to heal her. Every time I asked her, she had a positive confession. I was shocked to hear that Monica's mom died despite that. And you know what? Right after her mom died, she came to church. Monica came to church. Not only that, but she kept teaching those little kiddies about Jesus. And you know what was in her mind, that Satan tempted her and said, I didn't talk to her about this, but I know what Satan is. I know he would have tempted her and said, you're going to tell those little kiddies about Jesus? And he took your mom? That's just the way the devil works. And she said, yeah. I'm sure she said, yeah, I'm going to anyway. So she committed an act of love toward God by continuing to come to church despite believing up to the very end. And her mom died. She said, God, I'm going to keep coming anyway. I'm going to keep serving you anyway. I'm going to keep teaching these kids about you anyway. Sister Rebecca Atkins, I'd hope she'd be here this morning so I could make her face red.
Trees over her driveway. She couldn't get out.
Okay, yes, she's out in the woods.
She called.
Yeah. Her husband died. Her husband of 18 years passed away. Or went to be with the Lord and didn't die. And she came the very next service. That Wednesday night, he had passed away Friday. We had the funeral Sunday. Wednesday night she was in church. I sat back there that Wednesday and looked at the back of her head and just said, God bless that sister. I was sitting there just nearly in tears. I knew she'd be there. I had a feeling that I know what she is, and I knew she'd be faithful and be here even after her husband died. And I went and talked to her that night. I said, I really admire your faith. And Sister Monica too, about hers with her mom. Because they committed these acts of love toward God, even though their loved ones had died. Now ours didn't die. Our baby was dying, and we came to church anyway, but their loved ones actually died. Her husband died, and she came to church. All right? An act of love to God. Faithfulness. Now, and then who else was there? There was another example I think I had to give. But what I want you to see in all this is I did not get jealous over Sister Rebecca committing that act of love that I witnessed toward God, that act of faith. Oh, there's one more example quick. So then, Brother Branham had prayed, I think, for a baby, and he told him this in one of his sermons. He talked about a couple whose baby had actually died, like ours was dying, but this one's baby died, and they were in church the next service, I think. He pointed them out and said, something about that's faith. He pointed them and said, that's faith. And I said, well, how's that faith? Because it's an act of love, and love produces faith, right? So they came to church after their baby died. They didn't sit at home and mourn for 3 weeks. They came right back to church. Their baby just died. And Brother Branham, I think, had prayed for the baby, but God's will is sovereign, so he took the baby anyway. He had a reason in that. But the people came to church anyway, and he said that's faith. And then I thought of Monica and Rebecca and our situations, where all these times where we shouldn't have been in church, but we came anyway, showing God our love. We're just simply making love to the Lord by saying, God, I love you and I'm going to be here. All right? So here's my point. There was no jealousy in any of that because Rebecca committed that same act that we had done, and I admired it and I was enthused about it because someone else is showing love to my God, and I want him to receive all the love he can from anywhere. See, she was doing that, and I wasn't jealous of Monica. They had gone even beyond us, because like I said, their loved ones had died, and they came anyway. Ours didn't even die. And so, that I didn't get jealous of them. And actually, I was enthused about it and loved to see that. And I wanted to encourage them and tell them about it. So my point is, in perfect love, there is no jealousy. In perfect love, there's no malice, there's no strife, there's no any imperfections. Perfect love is absolutely pure from any of those things. And then I thought about Sister Branham. You know, Brother Branham's first wife died, Sister Hope. And Brother Branham went beyond the curtain of time. Now, he had remarried, and he had married Sister Meady, who went beyond the curtain of time, saw his first wife, and hugged her. Came back and told Meady about it. You'd think Meady would be jealous, and she probably was, because she's still in this realm of filial love. We don't understand, we've never experienced this great extent of agape love as it is beyond the curtain of time. We haven't experienced it in its fullness yet. But she should have been jealous, you would think, of Brother Branham, and I'm sure she probably stood back and said, well, you know, what else did y'all do? Did y'all kiss or something? You know, but there's no perversion. Nobody's married there. Nobody's given in marriage, and we can't comprehend it. I didn't mean to take the whole class to do this, but we didn't understand. We can't understand this. It doesn't really. We can't wrap our minds around it. It's beyond us. So, but she wasn't jealous, and Hope in there. And let's go ahead and read a quote about that. Okay. So, this is from, both of these quotes will be from the Rejected King. And I looked this way and that way, and they were coming by the thousands, and I said, I don't understand this. I said, why? And here come Hope. That was my first wife. She run and never said my husband, she said my precious brother. And when she hugged me, there was another woman standing there that hugged me. See, now, you would think, now Hope is going to stand back, she's going to be like, you know, Hope's the first wife. And this other woman is hugging Brother Branham. And I thought, well, this has to be something different. Oh, no, excuse me, I skipped a part. There was another woman standing there to hug me, and then Hope hugged this woman. So she didn't turn and slap her, she should have slapped her. If we were in this realm, that's what should have happened. But in that realm, in perfect love, instead, she went over to hug that other sister that just hugged her husband. You know, and I thought, oh, this has to be something different. It can't be. There's something. I thought, oh, would I ever want to go back to that old carcass again? I looked around there and I thought, what is this? And I looked real good and I said, I can't understand it. But Hope seemed to be like a guest of honor. She has no different, or she was no different, but just a guest of honor. But I know there, I believe we'll have a relationship like we'll know that we were husband and wife here, me and Gabby, but there won't be any this hugging and kissing type stuff that we do here. None of the attributes of filial love will be there. Filial love is a condescended part of God. God, when He condescended, I believe His attributes condescended with Him. Love was one of those. Agape descended to filio, where we could receive it and understand it in a minute form, but it's on the opposite end of the spectrum from agape love. Agape love is so far beyond filial love. At best, you could say filial love is just like maybe a shadow or a type of it, and something just to give us a little bit of understanding about it. You know what I mean? You understand? Yes. Everybody with me? So then I heard a voice then and spoke to me and was in the room and said, this is what you preached was the Holy Ghost. This is perfect love. And nothing can enter here without it. I'm more determined than ever in my life that it takes perfect love to enter here. There was no jealousy. There was no tiredness. There was no death. Sickness could never end there. Mortality could never make you old. And they could not cry. It was just one joy, oh my precious brother. Okay? So, I guess I'm going to take the rest of the class to explain this one little part. I took like 20 minutes to tell Gabby the other day, so I'm going to try to put it in 5 minutes. So then, the prerequisites for living in this realm, this dimension, are what? A terrestrial body, and a spirit, and a soul. You pretty well have to have all three of those, right? If not, you're dead. If you don't have those three, body, spirit, and soul, to live in this realm. Well, what are and I just started thinking about this, I haven't got to study about it a whole lot yet, but what are the prerequisites for that realm? Perfect love, maybe I guess you'd say a celestial body or theophany body. You have to have somebody to move around, but you have to have perfect love to enter there. Faith, right? Why? Because God is operating on faith. His whole entire realm, His whole entire premise is based on faith, and you can't enter that realm without it. Think about God before the foundation of the world when he was Elohim and he condescended to Logos, which speech was born, language was born, so we could have some part to understand God. Without that, there'd be just this great big invisible God that nobody could even comprehend. And out of that came the Logos, and he said, let there be. Now, Brother Branham said, and I don't know if he ever talked about the Big Bang, but I believe in the Big Bang to the extent of what Brother Branham said, where he said it seemed like there was nothing. There wasn't even space, there wasn't even time, there wasn't even matter, energy, or anything. There was nothing. And then Brother Branham said an atom burst when God said, let there be. An atom burst, and all of matter, time, energy, space, everything came into existence. That one creative act, and it began to expand into this universe that we know today. What was that? God spoke it, he believed it, he mixed his own word with faith, and the two mixed together is a powerful recipe that makes a universe. See, the faith of man is in a measure. God gives every man a measure of faith, but God's faith is measureless. So he can create a universe. Man's faith can move a mountain, move a tree. Jesus said, you can say to this tree, be thou plucked up, cast to the sea, or be thou moved to the mountain. And that's faith as a grain of mustard seed. A mustard seed is small, and it won't mix with anything. So with that little measure of faith that we have, we can move mountains. But the faith of God can create a universe that declares himself. So that faith, his whole entire attributes, his whole everything is based on faith. And when we go to heaven, we have to have faith to enter. We have to have faith to remain there. So think about this. This is sort of a philosophical question. But if you were in heaven, if somebody had you get in heaven with no faith, and you were there in heaven with no faith, would you even know you were there? You know what I mean? Because everything you contact is by faith. Everything you would see there would be by faith. Everything you touch would be by faith. Everything that you experience would be by faith. So you wouldn't even know you were there if you didn't have faith. And Jesus in Matthew 22 was talking about the wedding garment. The man that got in without the wedding garment, what did they do? Cast him out in outer darkness because he had no garment, no Holy Ghost, no faith. So then you can't operate in that realm. You can't even go into that realm without faith. So God, during this whole entire time we're here on earth, is trying to get us to believe. That's the most basic element of Christianity, is always believe Christ. ABC, right? Only believe. Simply believe. And all things are possible to them that believe. Jesus said over and over again, fear not, only believe. Right? He said believe, believe, believe. So if we just simply believe the whole entire thing, see, God doesn't appear to us in a fleshly form. It'd be easier to believe them. But he said, blessed are they that believe and have not seen. So if you have not seen a form of God appear to you, which most of us haven't, the Bible says no man has seen God in time. In this carnal mind, I guess there's no way for us to see God, but we have to see him by eyes of faith. He wants us to believe so that we can even go there. The whole entire thing about Christianity is just based upon believing. And Brother Delton preached a lot about believing. God hides in simplicity. He doesn't manifest himself openly. He's not a show-off. In the whole entire creation of the universe, they've studied and seen in telescopes. I don't know if y'all know this, but the Hubble Space Telescope can actually see down through time, because the expanse of space is so broad that they can actually see back with the Hubble Space Telescope to the Big Bang, almost to the Big Bang, because everything in space is expanding, and it expanded faster than light. Light travels at 6 trillion miles a year, 186,000 miles per second. But the matter in space and time expanded faster than that, so it's beyond it. So then now here we are on planet Earth, and we can look back from the Hubble Space Telescope. They can look so far down through space that can actually see the early existence of the universe as galaxies were beginning to form. They can actually see that early time in the universe. And all that time that faith was, I even lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, because they can see, in other words, they can see the evolving of the universe into these different little galaxies and solar systems as God was forming things together. But they didn't see the hand of God, putting this there, putting that there. They didn't see God forming the sun. They didn't see any of God because he's doing it in simplicity. When you see things in nature, you can watch under a microscope conception of a baby. You can see these little germs floating around this egg, and all of a sudden one of them seemingly on its own accord just goes into the egg. Well, what is that? God is behind that, moving that there, but you cannot see him. God is not a show-off, and he can't be seen in all the natural things. We just can't look around with our natural eyes and see him. You have to believe him by faith. So then God hides in simplicity. He reveals himself in simplicity. It's impossible to see God without faith. It's impossible to please God without faith, the Bible says. So that's pretty much my whole lesson. I took up the whole time to do that. I didn't get to the come let us reason.
Fine. It was interesting. Thank you.